All right, so we're going to do the first one by putting it into standard form, and then the vertex axis, all that good stuff. But then I'm also going to show you that you could do this using the negative b over 2a. So keep that in mind moving forward. Obviously, what we're doing right now will be like on your quiz, but moving forward, we do need to still know how to do the negative b over 2a stuff. So when I graph this, and I told you yesterday and the day before, but I'll remind you that there's not going to be a term on the front of your quiz question, okay? But that is obviously something you need to know how to do, so we're going to review it. So the first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this, and I'm going to group together the 4x squared and the 16x, and then bump the negative 5 to the outside. Then there's a term on the front this time, so that's got to come out. So it would be 4x squared. 16 also gets divided by 4, so it's minus 4x. Again, I'm going to leave that space. Now I want to fill that space, so I would take the 4, this 4, divide it by 2 and square it. I get 2 squared, which is 4. I'm going to add it inside the parentheses. And normally I subtract it from outside the parentheses, but I have to multiply by this 4 first before I do that, which changes it to a negative 16. So I'm going to rewrite this 4x squared minus 4x plus 4, and then negative 5 minus 16, which is negative 21. Now I got it into the perfect square, so I want to factor it. I'm going to keep the 4 in the front, square root the first term, square root the last term, take the sign from the middle, which is a minus, put it in the parentheses, don't forget to square it, and then minus 21. So that's the first step. Get it into standard form. Questions on that process? Okay, then I identify my vertex. When it's in standard form, I do the opposite of what follows x, which would be a positive 2, and then whatever's outside the parentheses, I keep the sign on it, which is a negative 21. My y-intercept is the easiest thing to find next. If I go back up to the original, this would have been a 0, this would be a 0, 0, comma, negative 5. Again, y-intercept we find by plugging in x as the 0. And then the the x-intercept, okay? If this was factorable, I could find the intercepts that way. It's not, and it won't be on your quiz. So then the other thing to do is take what I found here. I mean, I could use the quadratic formula on the top. That is still an option, but I think that it's easier to do the even root here. So I'm going to take the y equals, make it 0. Plug the 0 in for the y. So 0 equals 4 times x minus 2 squared minus 21. So I'm going to add the 21, divide by 4, square root both sides, putting the plus and minus. Plus and minus, the square root of 21 doesn't get simplified, but 4 does. And then I'm going to add the 2. So I get 2 plus and minus square root 21 over 2. That would be 2 minus square root 21 over 2, 0, and 2 plus square root 21 over 2, 0. So if I'm given, obviously, that as an answer, I'm going to keep it exactly as it is. I want the answers exact. Your answers will have square roots in them for your x-intercepts. Don't freak out, okay? But to graph this, I need to figure out what that is. So I'm going to do the square root of 2 minus the square root of 21. Oops, I just typed that wrong. 2 minus the square root of 21 divided by 2. This is negative 0.3. And then 2 plus the square root of 21. Why do I keep doing that? 21 divided by 2. And I get 4.3. Now I'm going to graph all this. Since my vertex goes down to 21, and you might get a large vertex, you might get a large y-intercept, feel free to adjust your graph. So I'm going to go by 2's this time. So this is negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10, negative 12, negative 14, 16, 18, 20. This would be 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on and so forth. So 2, negative 21 is down here. 0, negative 5 is here. Negative 0.3 is here. And 4.3 is here. And then I'm going to connect those points to make my parabola. So again, we reviewed the complete the square because you will have to complete the square in the quiz. But let's say this is a test question and it just says to graph it. Find the vertex and graph it. We don't necessarily have to put it into standard form to find the vertex. I can also do negative b over 2a. So if I had done that, b is negative 16. So it'd be negative 16 over 2a is 4 times 4. And I would have gotten 16 over 8, which is 2, which is consistent with what we found here. Then I would have taken the 2 and plugged it back in. 4 times 4 minus 32 minus 5, 8. Nope, 16, sorry. 16 minus 32 minus 5. Negative 16 minus 5, which is negative 21. So you can also find your vertex that way. And then you could have found your intercepts. Obviously, y-intercept I would have done the same way, but I could have found the x-intercepts using the quadratic formula instead of the even root process because it wouldn't have been in standard form. And then you graph it. So either way, okay, moving forward, obviously, if it just said graph, we don't have to put it in a standard form. We could do the negative b over 2a. It is just an option to do that, but your quiz is going to ask you to put it in standard form.
What about the axis symmetry?
Oh, thank you. Axis of symmetry is x equals 2.
Will that axis of symmetry, like the first number of the vertex, always be positive? Or?
No, it's always whatever the x is. So if I had x plus 2 inside the parentheses, then my x coordinate would be negative 2, and so would my axis. Yep.
And we can maybe show the axis of symmetry on the quiz.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to ask for all that stuff.
We would like draw it on.
You don't have to draw it. You have to list it.
Okay.
Yep.
So the only things we need to draw are the vertex
And then the
X,
coordinate.
Y,
Yep.
intercept.
Okay, then the flip, we didn't do yesterday, we did this the day before, okay? If I'm given information about the equation, remember I want to plug it into the standard form, which is y equals a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. The vertex is my h and my k, the coordinate is my x and y. So I'd get negative 6 equals a times the x, which is 3, minus a negative 2 becomes plus 2 squared, plus k, which is 3. Do the addition first, then do the square, then subtract the 3, then divide by 25. So a is negative 9/25. And then I would just plug back in the a, the h, and the k. So I'd get y equals a is negative 9 over 25. X minus a negative 2 goes to plus 2 squared plus 3. And there's your equation. You are graphing on the quiz. Yes, Nate, you are doing everything we just did except for the negative b over 2a. And you can do the negative b over 2a to check your vertex, but you are doing everything we just did.